Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Julian and today we're going to check out the Uzi by JOYO, which is a Marshall in a box kind of pedal, and it has become one of my favorite pedals. Alright guys, so what you just heard is this pedal in action. Now this pedal can get many different tones. It's pretty simple. You will see that the knobs on this one are a little bit different than the one that you might buy online. I bought it on Amazon, by the way. And the one that you're gonna see on the tone check is also a little bit different. That's because I have two of them. That is how much I like it. Right? Pretty simple pedal, right? The knobs are different. I did change them, by the way, on the other one that you'll see on the pedal board too. But you know, we have volume gain, right? Low, mids, highs, and a very cool knob called the bias, which does actually change everything on this pedal. And you know, we can get so many tones. So let's just check out some tones and then we'll talk a little bit about it at the end. All right, guys, so to do our sound check, I'm going to be using my PRS SE DGT, which is one of my favorite guitars to play. I'm going to be using the orange TH30 on the clean channel. All right, and this is the clean sound that we get. So pretty clean. There's a little bit of reverb and delay in the FX loop. I'm using another HX tone for that one. Just a little bit, but I might take it off on the higher gain tones. We'll check. All right, but let's begin our tone check. Our layout is pretty simple, and we have our volume gain. All right, I'm actually gonna start with the gain and max. I'm actually gonna start by showing you my favorite tone on this pedal, and then we'll just go from low gain to high gain. Now over here we have the low, mid, high, and bias. Bias is actually a pretty cool knob. It makes a huge difference, guys. So that is a really cool control. Right, but what I'm gonna do at first, before we start going from the lower gain tones to the higher gain tones, I'm gonna show you how I use this pedal most of the time, because I use it live a lot. Probably one of my most used pedals, right? And mainly this is like my high gain pedal, which can be rhythm or lead. Now it does have a bunch of drive, but every once in a while I'll add a tube screamer just to like bump up the mids a little bit, just to give me like, you know, a little bit more of a singing tone. But you know, as it is right now, this is the sound that we get. Here's with the brick. Again, one of my most used tones or pedals and tones, because I just think it fits perfectly well. But that's kind of like how I use it most of the time, guys. Let's do this, guys. Let's take our gain back. And again, let's just go, you know, for like a low gain tone to like a high gain tone. I just wanted to show you that because I think most people want this as a higher gain kind of tone, not for a low one, but it can do low gains. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's just put everything halfway. All right. And let's just, you know, put the gain somewhere around 9. This is not a kind of pedal where you want to put the, you know, the gain before that. It won't really give you anything. And let's see what we get. I'm gonna go to my neck first. So, you know, it does give you, you know, even at the lower gain settings, it's not going to give you like an overdriven, you know, tube screamer kind of thing, because it's not that. It's, you know, it's like a Marshall sound. Now, is it more Plexi or more Marshall 800? I think it's more plexy, right? I'll just say it out now because I have another pedal that is more of a Marshall 800 and I could hear the difference. And I'm always jumping on which one I like most, right? But now let's play a little bit with the knobs because they are pretty powerful. So let's actually begin with the bias. Now, the bias, guys, is very interesting and took me a while to figure it out. But pretty much the bias is like a open and close sound knob or a tighten or loosen sound knob, right? So if we put the bias all the way to the left, you get a more open, less tight sound. But what happens is that you also lose some of the highs. So when you put the bias all the way off, that means it's going to be less loose. It's going to lose some of the highs, and it's not going to be as tight, of course. So you want to put some of the highs back in. All right, now let's go ahead and maybe add a little bit of mids because it is Marshall, and I love using mids on sound. Okay, that for me is way better. Right, and then the low is just kind of depending on what you're using. Right now, I'm using like a 1x12 orange, which tends to be kind of thick, so I don't put that much bass. But when I'm using my Fender Pro Junior, that amp, you know, I do crank the bass a lot just to give it a little bit more oomph, right? But you know, if we take our volume off, doesn't sound that bad with this cab actually. That was on the neck. Let's try the bridge. So already, guys, again, it's already giving quite a lot of gain. Let's actually lower the gain. Let's see how little gain we have. Here's like, I don't know, I guess we could say maybe a 1, right? From 1 to 10, it would be like a 1. Still a very usable tone. I would use this for something like a... Alright guys, and check this out. Now let's put the bias all the way up, and you see how it gets like, you know, kind of small sounding. In a way, it's almost like it loses some of the gain too. So in this case, you know, it is a tighter sound. So I think what it does is that it actually cuts like a bunch of the, maybe a little bit of low mids and mids. That makes it a lot cleaner sounding. So then what do you want to do? You want to crank the low. It also seems to add more mid, so it kind of shifts our tone kind of like center a little bit. It's actually pretty interesting how it works. All right, so let's take away some mids. Let's add some highs. There we go. That's better. So it does kind of like, you know, even takes away some of the volume. So also a usable tone, but for me, I definitely prefer, when I have like lower gain on this pedal, I prefer the bias, you know, maybe halfway. You see that big difference? Yeah, I think it just sounds like bigger, but definitely, I guess depending also on the mix of the band, if you're playing live or recording, you might play around with that. So kind of like a pretty powerful knob that I thought didn't do anything in the beginning. All right, so now let's bump it up a bit, guys. Let's take it to like 10. Right, again, we're just gonna go to lower gains to a higher gain tone. So in case you want to see like, full on crank, with some different settings, just go to the end of the tone check. All right, but let's put it somewhere around what? That's like 10 o'clock. All right, let's put everything halfway. Already a lot of gain. And what I'm gonna do, guys, since this is pretty high gain, I'll show you like, if I do like maybe a long lead, I'll put back the delay and reverb, but let me take those off. So now we have no delay, no reverb. All right, that was on the bridge, on the neck. Alright, now what we can do, guys, that's already a lot of gain, by the way, and that's like 10 o'clock, so it is like a gain beast, but it actually contains itself. It's not noisy, which I'm surprised for the price, right? So what we can do here is let's add more mids. Again, I'm always adding mids, guys. I'll show you the scoop sound once we get to the higher gain tones, and then I'm actually take away some of the highs, and then I'm gonna change the bias to all the way up. Right, it has like this growl, once you put the bias up. Let's go to our neck. Very cool lead. Alright guys, let's go ahead and actually let's do bias all the way left. Let's just, yeah, it's such a different sound. Alright, one thing to take into account is if you're gonna work around with your bias, you're also gonna need to work a lot with the low, mids, and highs, because it changes drastically. So one might sound better with a bias, with no bias, might sound very different with bias with different settings. So for example, over here, it just has too much lows. It's like too open. So I'm gonna take away those lows. I'm gonna add a little bit of highs, maybe take away some mid. Okay, I took a lot of the highs away actually now. Let's add a few. Yeah, with that bias all the way off, it's just a little bit too boomy for me. But then again, I think that's actually for the really almost no gain tones or very low. So let's take it halfway. Let's see what we get halfway, guys. Again, let's just take everything to the middle, and then we'll see how we're gonna set that up. All right, our neck. Everything halfway sounds good already. Our bridge. again, guys, it's so much gain. All right, I wouldn't do much, but let's do bias all the way up. So yeah, it just tighter sounding. It's like so much chug, man. This pedal is just really good. Even for like the genty stuff, it's great. All right, bias all the way to the... Wow, that sounds so open. Still sounds, kind of gives me like, obviously it's not a dual rectifier by any means, but it gives you like that kind of like very open, yeah, like, you know, Mesa Boogie dual rec sound, which is like this very open, not tight at all, just very loose. Kind of gives you that. Wow, I love this pedal. All right, let's take, you know, let's add a lot of mids as I usually do. Again, when I play live, guys, we do a lot of like 80s, 90s kind of stuff. We don't do like modern things, but this pedal can do modern sounds, obviously, depending on the amp too. But, you know, when I'm doing a lot of 80s stuff, I do tend to add a lot of mids because that's just kind of like, you know, that martially, you know, 80s and 90s sound kind of thing. Wow. All right, let's put it for a second on the neck. Again on our bridge. You know, for most people, guys, again, this is my clean tone just as a reference. For most people, that's as much gain as they're gonna need. But let's take it 45% up in the gain. All right, let's check our volume. A little bit less. There we go. That sounds about right. Now, guys, you want a scoop sound, right? Because a lot of people are like, hey, you know, can you do a scoop sound? You know, stuff like that. You know, for certain bands, for example, I don't know, Rhinestone, like a scoop sound sounds great, but most of the time you just want mids, unless there's, you know, a lot of middle, right? If you don't have a lot of that, you're just gonna get drowned out. But check it out, no mids. By the way, standard tuning. Yeah. All right. So, pretty cool. Again, you can't get drowned out, out of the mix if you don't have enough mids. So, if we add a lot of mids, let's take the mids up just to see what that does. Right? Might be a little honky. So here's where you gotta play a little bit with your highs. All right, and with your lows. With your mids, I'm sorry. Alright guys, so now let's see how much highs we have because we haven't checked that, right? So I'm gonna keep it the same, and this pedal can definitely have too much high. To me, that's just ear piercing, just not what I want. Obviously, we also don't want very little highs. Again, depends on your amp. I had my highs pretty low when I was doing that lead sound because again, I have a thing against highs. They can get to my ear and annoy me. But maybe somewhere around a little bit less than halfway. That probably sounds really good. Our neck. All right, and let's look at the lows, guys. Let's actually go to the bridge. Right, pretty heavy. And if we add a lot of lows, maybe I don't know how the mic is gonna capture that, but definitely just adds too much boom. And you don't want that in a mix, guys. I know we want like a huge sound, we all do. But remember, the huge sound comes from the bass player. It is. The bass player is the one that's carrying the thickness of a band, okay? So we can leave that space for them, but that, if you're playing by yourself, let's take away all of the lows. Even with the lows all the way off, still sounds very good. If you feel that in a band, you're like getting drowned out, could be the bass. So mids and bass, obviously everything, but if you're in a very full band with a lot of instruments, you might want to take that, the lows all the way off from this pedal. And you're gonna fit perfectly, right? Now again, since I'm playing by myself and in the band that I play at, usually it's me, sometimes we get a rhythm player. Then depending on that, I usually, put it halfway or even more. All right? And in reality, guys, when you go all the way gain, there's not that much difference from 75% gain. And maybe not today, but in another video, I'll show the pedal being boosted with other pedals just to see how it combines, because then again, other pedals can, also give it, some different flavors. Alright, so to end the video, again, for me, the most important knob is that bias. it just makes such a huge difference on the whole tone stack. So let's bias all the way off. Check. Very, very loose. You know, I will take all the way the lows all the way up. Still too much, so I will put a lot of highs. Maybe take away some mid. Now it's a little bit too scooped. Okay, that's kind of like a mid bump. Yeah, just too loose for me, just too loose. So, you know, most of the time, check out the difference it's gonna make taking that bias halfway. No bias. Right, all the way bias. And then again, my favorite tone, guys, and the ones I was using in the beginning. A lot of mids, took away some of the highs, all the way bias. A lot of lows just for a lead sound. Let's put back our a little bit of reverb and delay. And for a lead tone, okay, guys, so as I said, so many tones in one pedal. It's just crazy, especially for the price. Now, here's the thing, guys. It's like, right now, I think it's like $48 the last time I saw it. And it's just what you get for what you pay for is a lot, all right? I do have other high gain pedals, and as I said before, this is the one that I usually end up using because I just like how it sounds. Nowadays, I don't base how good something sounds based on money. There's things that are expensive that sound good, things that are not expensive that sound good, all right? And this is one of those, like, you know, bangers, guys. Such a good pedal, all right? So many different tones, and just, you know, very easy to dial things. And now the tone stacks, you know, the low, mids, and highs, you know, they all act just as you would want it to. And, you know, it has a bunch of gain. So, you know, in reality, this is a pedal that I love. Never leaves my pedal board. Usually I have two high gain pedals, and this is usually one of the ones that always stays, and then the other one I kind of change it around. All right, so we'll check other pedals, and then in the future I'll do some kind of like, you know, comparisons of this pedal with other higher gain, more so in a box pedals. But I think it's a really good one. So just let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.